Are you aware of the silent killer lurking in our modern world? Cardiovascular diseases claim the lives of 17.9 million people every year, accounting for 1/3 of all deaths. But it's not just the elderly who are at risk. Modifiable factors such as smoking, obesity, lack of physical activity, and poor diet contribute to the development of this deadly disease. But there's hope. Lifestyle adjustments, like quitting smoking and increasing physical activity, can significantly reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. And with the growing problem of obesity, diet changes have become increasingly important. Enter intermittent fasting, the latest re-emerging trend in dieting. It's considered less restrictive than traditional calorie restriction methods, and has been found to be an effective alternative for weight loss and glycemic control. From time-restricted feeding to alternate-day fasting, there are various protocols to choose from. First, let's discuss the impact of intermittent fasting on lipid metabolism. Survival and preservation of species continuity depend, amongst others, on their access to food. That is why living organisms have developed many adaptive mechanisms that allow them to survive periods of famine. Some organisms in the periods where they lack access to food are dormant, for example, yeasts entering the stationary phase. In contrast, mammals have liver and adipose tissue. These constitute an energy warehouse for them that allows them to survive during periods of famine. Fats are essential components of the human body. They are a diverse group in terms of the structure and functions fulfilled in the body. One of the most important functions is that of the backup and energy function. Energy is contained within stored adipocytes, which under certain conditions is released from them under the influence of enzymes called lipases. After eating a meal, the concentration of glucose in the body increases, and then within a few hours, it returns to the state it was before the meal. The concentration of ketones is low, because glycogen stores in the liver are not depleted. During use of the intermittent fasting diet, which consists of introducing fasting periods, there are marked metabolic changes in the body. For example, when using a diet during which all food during the day is consumed in a 6-hour nutritional window, the glucose level is elevated during and about 6 hours after a meal, but remains low for the remaining 16 hours until the next day. During the 6 to 8 hours in an 18-hour fasting window, ketones remain increased. The human body is naturally adapted to such periods of fasting, and in the moment of starving, adaptation mechanisms are used to obtain energy. During fasting, when glucose is exhausted, the body begins to utilize ketones that arise as a result of fatty acid transformations. Fatty acids and ketones become the main source of energy for cells. This transition is called intermittent metabolic switching, IMS, or glucose-ketone, G to K, switchover. Inverse switching, for instance, ketone glucose, K to G, occurs after the interruption of fasting and meal intake. While the body is abstaining from food, the concentration of glucose, which is the basic energy substrate, decreases. Glycolysis is inhibited. Glycogen reserves in the liver are consumed and the process of gluconeogenesis is activated, during which fats are consumed. In addition, insulin and insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1, levels are reduced in blood and glucagon levels rise. Fatty acids released from fat cells in the process of lipolysis of triacylglycerol and diacylglycerol are released. They are then transported to the liver cells, where they are converted into beta-hydroxybutyrate, BHB, and acetoacetate, ACAC, in the beta-oxidation process and are further released into the blood and used as a source of energy for body cells, including the brain. Such biochemical changes are accompanied by cellular and molecular adaptations of neuronal networks in the brain. The result is an improvement of their functionality and resistance to stress, injuries, and diseases. Biochemical transformations of lipids, along with following the intermittent fasting diet, result in weight loss and changes in lipid parameters. According to studies conducted by Surabhi Bhutani and others, during the use of alternative days on an empty stomach for 2 to 3 weeks showed a reduction of body weight by 3%, while longer attempts to use the alternate day fasting protocol can result in a reduction of 8% and a reduction in fat mass in the viscera. Additionally, the levels of total cholesterol, triglycerides, and low-density cholesterol are reduced, which limits the risk of developing coronary heart disease. In studies conducted on mice, both the intermittent fasting diet alone, as well as a combination of the intermittent fasting diet and high-intensity interval training, caused a decrease in body weight and low-density lipoproteins, even when the mice were simultaneously consuming high-fat and sugar foods. Nonetheless, high-fat and sugary foods are not recommended as they can make it increasingly more difficult to sustain periods of extended fasting due to quick drops of blood glucose, which disrupts the body-brain connection, making it more likely to crave more frequently. This demonstrates the effectiveness of weight loss through the use of the intermittent fasting diet. Now let's delve into the even more terrifying world of inflammation and atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is a leading cause of vascular disease and death worldwide, manifesting in symptoms such as heart disease and stroke. It's caused by a chronic inflammatory response in which plaque forms in arterial vessels, narrowing them and putting you at risk for serious health complications. And what's driving this inflammation? High levels of low-density lipoproteins, or LDLs. It's important to note that all LDL should not be treated the same. But here's the thing, the intermittent fasting diet has been shown to reduce the concentration of pro-inflammatory factors that contribute to the development of this plaque. In fact, studies have shown that it can increase the secretion of adiponectin, a protein with anti-inflammatory and anti-atherosclerotic effects. And the impact of this diet doesn't stop there. Adiponectin has been shown to inhibit the adhesion of monocytes to endothelial cells and decrease the excretion of molecules that contribute to inflammation. But, be warned, a deficiency in this protein can lead to an increase in inflammation and even more dangerous complications. Don't wait to make a change, the impact of intermittent fasting on your body could be the difference between life and death. Additionally, intermittent fasting has been shown to have a beneficial effect on lowering blood pressure in both animal and human studies. Studies in both rats and humans have shown that intermittent fasting can reduce systolic and diastolic blood pressure, as well as heart rate. The mechanism behind this effect may be related to the increased activity of the parasympathetic system, as well as an increase in the release of acetylcholine by cholinergic neurons, which leads to a reduction in heart rate and an expansion of blood vessels, resulting in a decrease in blood pressure. Next, let's discuss the importance of food quality during an intermittent fasting eating window. It is crucial to incorporate nutraceuticals, which are beneficial substances found in food, to prevent cardiovascular disease. These include carotenoids, resveratrol, polyphenols, and omega-3 fatty acids. Timing of nutrient intake is important, but also focus on quality of food consumed by including a variety of nutrient-dense foods in your eating window for a proactive approach to maintaining heart health. Ultimately, with intermittent fasting, there are several benefits including reducing body fat and body mass, supporting cardiovascular health, reducing the risk of metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes, positively impacting the nervous system, and potentially extending the lifespan. However, when done incorrectly, it can have drawbacks such as causing fatigue, dizziness, and bad moods, particularly at the start of the diet. Therefore, it may not be suitable for those with reactive hypoglycemia, which can increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, arrhythmia, as well as stroke in the elderly, causing instability of the body and an increased number of falls, and potentially leading to hormonal imbalances and menstrual cycle disorders in women and reduced testosterone in men. It is not recommended for children, pregnant women, and people performing heavy physical work. If you enjoyed this video, you'll be sure to enjoy this one. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get notified when I release a new video. Be sure to check out some of the recipes on my channel as well.